Army Veteran, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now, here's your host.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle, and I'm looking forward to hearing this story right from the source. Talking with Rachel Jouett. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Good.
So, like, a mutual friend of ours recommended you to me. Being a veteran, he likes to hook me up with other service members that have some, interesting stories. I think we all have interesting stories. If we, raised our right hand and took an oath, that right there qualifies, but yeah, I'm excited to have you on and get into all the things that you're involved with and what you're doing today. But when I have people on for the first time, I like to go way back with them. So do you remember originally what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Yes. First it was a veterinarian, and then it was an attorney.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're already going places as a kid, huh?
I thought so, but turns out that I have a very queasy stomach when it comes to things like that, so that would have never worked. Get grossed out really easily. And then when I was starting school in hopes of becoming an attorney, I ended up pregnant with my oldest son. And he said, well, that's depressing. And I said, no, it's not. It was actually a godsend, because then I would have been in the stuffy courthouses and not getting to enjoy the sun and have flexibility. So it all works out for our good. So yeah, but long ago, those were my aspirations, but it's just jumped around over the years.
Nice. And then when was it that you decided you were going to serve your country?
Oh, wow. Well, I don't know about you, Bill, but I don't have one of those fascinating stories about I saw this and I really wanted to do it. I was the vice president of my Future Farmers of America club, believe it or not. We were at National Convention, and there were some Army recruiters that had this really cool simulator, backpack and all of the things, and you could play this simulation where you were shooting people. And so I ignorantly put my name down for more information, and once I hit 17, that recruiter started blowing me up, and I said, okay, well, he must have something good to say. And I said, I can either stay at home and party during the summer and probably get in trouble, or I can have a backup career and become more disciplined and have more respect for figures of authority. And so that's which route I went. And it was so much more of a blessing than I could even think of. And so definitely love my country, definitely love the opportunity for selfless service, still do. And I'm grateful for all the values they instilled in me, like integrity and things like that. So, yeah.
So when, the recruiter kept blowing up your phone, you had plans, with your friends and everything, but like coming from the Future Farmers of America, like life, and then having to go like through boot camp and stuff like that. What were some of the oddest things you experienced along the way?
Well, I think I probably should have been concerned when my grandfather, that was the captain of the police department and an Army Vietnam veteran himself, when my grandparents were so shocked that they were like, could not sign quick enough. Like, yes, take her. But oh my gosh, some of the difference, I was just under a rock. And so actually training, that hearing some of the soldiers that I served alongside and their upbringings and things that they had to overcome and the different areas that they were in was a shocker. Seeing people from different backgrounds and ethnicities and different ages that were joining for various reasons, and being immersed in that was fascinating. And you see all the videos and you think the boot camp is just, they're mean, and these drill sergeants that are just yelling. And my experience was much different than that in 2008. We had some pretty cool drill sergeants, just fascinating. One was a PT stud, one was European, the other one was a computer nerd. But anyways, they had said, you know, you didn't have to be here. So yes, we're going to get in your behind, but it's essentially because we obviously we have your best interest at heart, but you didn't have to be here. And we just want to let you know going into this that we admire you and respect you for standing up and volunteering. And so it made you want to be even more successful. I feel like I felt like they were uncles or parents, and I wanted to make them proud. And I really appreciated them doing that and being personable versus just being, you know, the stereotypical mean drill sergeant. And what your body can do in that short period of time is fascinating, like so fascinating, when you don't make any excuses and you just do it. So yeah.
Well said. I love that. That's awesome. I didn't have those type of drill instructors myself, but it sounds sounded encouraging. I just didn't want to keep getting dropped. My arms and could only do so many push-ups and stuff like that.
Oh gosh. I have to admit, I was definitely the soldier that I was watching to see when they're backward at me, and I was taking a little break because same. Same.
And then, you know, after going through boot camp and training, like where were some of the, where was one of your favorite places you got to serve at?
Now, I was a reservist for 12 years, so a little bit different experience, because really the only time that we would leave is if we went to another training, or I did switch MOSs for my second contract. I mean, I've got to say that my basic training was in Fort Jackson, so that was nice. And when I went for my second MOS for 36 Bravo Financial Management Specialist, we were in this tiny, I cannot even remember technically where we were at, because it was this tiny base that backed up to a junkyard behind it. But it was in such a neat part of Texas that on our off days, we really got to go out and explore. And we even caught I'm an Ohioan, and we caught a off-season Bengals versus, I forget what the Cowboys. So that was super cool. So I would say that was probably the most fun.
Nice.
Boring, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Cleveland actually.
Okay.
So what I found amazing was how many Browns backers clubs there are all over the world.
Oh,
really? During my time, and you know, it seemed like every base I was stationed at, there was a bar that had a Browns backers club. Even when I was in Kuwait, they had a Kuwaiti cardiac kids club. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it was put together by our own people that were stationed there, but still.
Set
one up, you know. I had a shirt somewhere. I don't fit in it anymore, but I mean, I still kept that thing.
There you go.
And then after like your time in and transitioning out, like what would you say is one of your biggest pet peeves with civilians?
Oh, the lack of discipline and follow through, for sure. I'm like, the military I almost want to say did me a disservice. I feel like there should be a preparation when you get ready to go back into your civilian life and career. They're like, hey, just remember that you are a small percentage. I think it's 7% now. Like, you are a small percent of people. So don't go with the same expectations of other people, because the amount of people that have excuses and lack accountability and want to blame others and don't follow through, and it just is so disheartening and frustrating. Whereas, you know, going to the military at 17, it was, you don't have an excuse. And even being a reservist, to where we would only come together 1 week in a month, and you're coming together with all your prejudices, all your biases, all your traumas, all your stuff, and you've got to put that crap aside to get a job done. Like, so I
Mhm.
am very much like business, don't have time for that. And the civilian world is not like that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I can relate to your story. I mean, I did a few years active and then transitioned into the reserves and was able to
Mhm.
finish my 20 in the reserves. But yeah, it was just like, I mean, the things that we are all, a lot of us, the guys I hung out with, we were all jokesters, you
Yeah.
know. And I think around the time that, before like my unit or I used to drill out of Cleveland next to the Rock Hall,
Okay.
and now the Coast Guard took it over, and then they moved us to like Buffalo, and then I finished up in the Federal Building. But the guys I used to be in the boat crew with and stuff, like Chappelle Show was out around that time and everything, and we were all like avid watchers of that. And
Yeah.
it's like we couldn't even have these conversations in public sometimes today in
Oh,
among the
that's,
civilian
yeah.
population. They just don't get it,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it.
But I kind of like the way you worded that as well. It's like that you wish we kind of would have got some sort of like class or training to understand, like almost to give them some grace, because it's
Yeah.
like they know not what they don't know,
Yeah. That's a good
and
word for it. Yeah.
yeah, because I haven't, I haven't, and I needed to hear that, because it's like, yeah, I think it would do my heart and my well-being a
Mhm.
lot better if I just understood they don't know what they don't know,
Yeah.
and maybe be a better advocate, which we'll get into advocacy, but be a better advocate for veterans,
Mm-hmm.
to teach them to bridge that gap instead of just hating on them.
Yes, yes. And even that, even if we do have some level of frustration, it's like, or even if we do know that we're right, it's like having that grace to not come off condescending, because that's another thing too, is in the military, like I said, I had that experience of being in the reserves, and you just come and you get your stuff done. You don't have time for the he said, she said, or whatever. And when I've done that and been that way in my civilian job, you will not, oh my gosh, you Bill, listen. My last real estate team that I was on, which I believe they're all older than me, but they actually got on me and said that they wanted me to put emojis into my email. They said, Rachel, your emails are like so professional. Like, I never thought that would be a complaint, is that my emails are too professional. Like, you get rigid or you're abrasive, and it's like, no, but there's a time for play, there's a time for business. And so it's been so fascinating for me to continue to learn in my 30s. Like, oh my gosh. So yeah.
And then what is something you'll feel like you'll always carry with you from your time of service?
Oh gosh. Oh gosh, don't get me all emotional. Um, the memories, the morale, the relationships. I lost a best friend to suicide, and it changed the trajectory of my life. And I am just so grateful for the time of us serving together and the things that I learned from, even from his death, that life is not promised, and all of the learning curves with that, and just being there for people. So yeah, yeah. The memories and the lessons, for sure, I'll always take with me.
I know, and that hit home too, because it's like it's a different animal too as a reservist. During my
Hmm.
reserve time, a lot of the people that were part of my brotherhood and sisterhood live locally. So it's
Hmm.
like, even though we had that weekend, a lot of us would still get together, in
Yes, yes.
between,
Yeah.
and you form those relationships. And like, I mean, it's like, I know during deployments, my last deployment was like, I was like an individual augmentee sent out with a bunch of strangers from all across the country. But by
Okay.
the end of it, of course, we become like family as well,
Yeah, definitely.
So keeping in touch on social media and whatever. And then you hear the news that, someone took their life, and
Hmm.
that whole struggle. But some of the guys that live locally that I train with, got cancer, or something, and going through that and losing them. It was just like, and you don't know if it was like related to some of the stuff we did when we were in or whatever, but it was, it's tough, because you form, like I said, as time goes on, I haven't kept in touch with all the people I was deployed with as much as I would have kept in touch with the guys that were local that I would see, So it's a different thing. It's definitely grateful for all the good times and the memories and stuff. But and speaking of the good times, what's one of the funniest stories you feel you could share from your time of service?
Oh my gosh, Bill, how honest do I want to be with you? Because I got one embarrassing one. Woo, funny. You know what? Oh gosh, do I want to tell this one? I'm going to tell it because this is just me and this is just my personality. But oh my gosh, am I going to get some slack for this one? Bill, listen. So, when they take you to basic training, they're not nice enough to give you an itinerary. They send you, and I was from a small town, so I'm getting on a plane for the first time. Turbulence scared the crap out of me. And then, you're hurry up and wait. And you do not know what to expect. And so when we finally get down there, we are at Fort Jackson. We go through the line and you get all of your boots, your uniforms, all the stuff. And then you change. And then I'm like, great. Are we going to go home and eat? I'm hungry. And no, then they wanted us to do some confidence course or whatever. And then we get done with that. And mind you, on the bus, on the plane, I've been drinking all these liquids and I've got to go to the little girls' room. And all of a sudden, we get done with the confidence course and I see that we have 2 porta potties. And I am about to lose my mind because I'm like, my bladder is not. I slowly make my way up. I'm so sorry. Can I go in front of you? I'm so sorry, which is embarrassing enough. Then I get in this bathroom and I have to figure out how to take off this contraption with the buttons and the belt. And I might not have done it in enough time. And I had to go to a drill sergeant as a 17-year-old say, can I go to the dorms and change? And they just looked at me so baffled, like, we're not scheduled to go back for like another 2 hours. So that is now how, and luckily it was hot, so I wasn't wet long, but that is my funniest, most embarrassing story that not a lot of people know about for sure. So yeah, I don't know how people didn't notice either and how I did not get picked on my entire basic training, but like that drill sergeant, I feel like maybe laughed about it later, but he could have made it a lot worse for me and he didn't. Thank you, Jesus. But yeah, that would be my funniest story. Yeah.
It happens. It happens out there. I mean, I know, I've been designed with another set of tools, so I got used to like taking empty Gatorade bottles and stuff, and being able to make things work in all kinds of areas.
I was definitely suspicious from then on when we had the drink water formations. I'm like, nope, I'll pass. So yeah.
And then what would you say is one of your greatest hopes for the country you've been willing to give your life for?
Oh gosh, one of my greatest hopes, don't get me on my bandwagon, is for us to stop playing into the lie and the schemes of the enemy and all the division. We all bleed the same. We all want to be happy. We want to have joy. We want to be successful. It doesn't matter what branch of the military it is. It doesn't matter what color our skin is. None of that stuff matters. And so I really just get so upset and so disheartened with all of the just separation and division and people that buy into things that polarize us, and distance us from one another, whether it's technology or difference in politics or whatever. I wish that we would be able to humble ourselves and have more uncomfortable conversations to find that middle ground and work together and be solution focused. So yeah.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's like, I didn't just serve so my voice could be heard. I served for all the voices to be heard, so we all have a seat at the table, and it's like, I know, I mean, in social media, I mean, don't even get me started on that, but it's just like, it's like, I could read things from some of my friends that I might not agree with, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know they felt this way. I disagree, but I'm not going to take up the fight on social media. I have the ability to scroll past and be like, hey, I still love them, for who they are, and if it gets to be a lot, I unfollow other than unfriend, because that friendship is still too valuable to me,
Yes.
But unfortunately, if I get the urge to post something, it feels like they don't have the same discipline that I have. And then it's like pile on me, and then broad brush strokes, you're this and that, or whatever, because you feel a certain way, and that's, definitely sad. But, going back to, talking about your friend that you lost, and, some of the people that we've lost and some of the struggles that, a lot of us still deal with day to day. What do you feel we can do to break the stigma of mental health and PTSD?
Oh, to talk about it, to have more of those conversations. I'm an advocate I told the Lord a couple years ago, God, whenever I go through something else, let me not go through it alone. Let me go through it publicly. I never want, and part of my inspiration for that was I had a relative from my small town that I was a single mom, and from her perspective, she just sees, oh my gosh, Rachel, how are you doing it? And how are you so successful? And that humbled me. And it was like, whoa, hold on. I cry myself to sleep at night sometimes, like I'm getting in the shower and cranking it up so that my kids don't hear me cry. Like there are still struggles. So don't look at everything that you see and think that it's happy-go-lucky, or that I have some magical elixir, and that I don't struggle. Everybody has their struggles. And so since then, I try as much as I can to kind of over communicate some of those down times and be accountable to other people about, oh my gosh, I raised my voice today, or what have you. And even I was guilty myself, which is so ironic because I go to school for human and social services, and have counseled before to some degree. And so we talk about mental health, and I developed PTSD, severe anxiety, and panic attacks after my best friend committed suicide because of the details surrounding that incident and his death, and survivor's guilt. And I dealt with it silently for years. And I felt ashamed. There was a stigma from being a person of color. There was the stigma from being a woman. There was the stigma from being a veteran. There was a stigma from being a veteran that wasn't active duty, that did not see wartime. So I had no idea that PTSD wasn't just for somebody that was a war veteran, that did serve in a war as a veteran. And so that's my encouragement, is like to get comfortable having those uncomfortable conversations and telling people how you really are, and also checking on people and not being afraid to say, hey, have you thought about ending your life? And being sure to also give people their flowers while they're here, to let them know, life is better with you here. We need you here. And what can I do to help? And just walking alongside and taking those opportunities, and not just assuming that everybody's okay because of what you see.
Wow. That's beautiful. Got me tearing up now.
Oh,
You have me thinking too, like, it's like I'm an alcoholic and an addict, I'm in recovery 16 years. So, I see why guys in meetings now say I'm a grateful alcoholic, because I am grateful now, I mean, I try and do a daily gratitude list, to wake up. Okay, I could focus. My mind will take me to all kinds of negativity right away, and I try and focus on the positive. I try and work on that. But, I get like free counseling when I go to meetings, with a lot of people that, we have this, like, I don't know if it's our ego or what, that we think we're the only ones going through this. And a lot of the guys that we lose never reach out because they think they're the only ones going through this. We think we're unique or whatever. And it's just like, it's humbling. And, I'm grateful when I sit in meetings and I can be vulnerable and share. And I do see therapists outside of that. I don't just depend on, recovery meetings and stuff, but because I got to have the tools, I got to put in work to get better. I can't stay stuck, but I'm so grateful that I have these places to, when I'm having a bad day, I pick up a phone, I can call people and know that I'm not alone. And it's like what you were saying, it just kind of, really resonated with what I've learned, because I've been, and similar to you, it's like a lot of my deployment, I was in some, sketchy areas, but I wasn't kicking down doors and driving in Humvees and getting shot at and stuff like that, like a lot of guys. But I still came home with, some issues. And a lot of it goes back to when I went in from high school, like as a youngster, and saw people die in front of me, for the first time. And then it's just like, I don't like how this feels. And that's, obviously I think contributed a lot to my drinking and other ways of numbing,
Yes.
life.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I look back and I'm like, I'm grateful to be in recovery and have these opportunities to have these tough conversations. Like you're saying, doing this podcast is a form of therapy for me, putting this together. Cause like when I first got sober, I realized, I didn't like talking to people and interacting like a human. So I needed that social lubricant, that was uncomfortable for me before. And then I had to relearn how to do this all over again. And now this, here I am being able to meet a stranger online and have this conversation and, have this connection now today.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's a great point and reason why I hate that there's such division, because the division is an enemy. But then also when we are divided and when we live in this cancel culture, then we carry that shame and guilt, and we don't want to let people in when we all have things that we deal with, and that's the beauty, is when you can set that aside and walk alongside each other. We're meant to be in community. We're meant to fellowship together. So that's wonderful that you have, it sounds like, a healthy support system. So
Yeah, thank you. And like you said, we're definitely meant to be in community and fellowship. That's what we were created for. The world, and like you said, the enemy that we deal with will tell us otherwise. They want us alone and in our own heads, and usually that battle doesn't go well, if we stay alone and in our heads.
Exactly.
But, speaking of like things of when we're in a good place and we're connected, I feel like I get tools, I get messages, I can listen to, the radio, a certain song will come on that I needed to hear. It's like when I'm in the right place and the right mindset spiritually, I'll receive. And you had mentioned something about some dreams that you had that kind of led you to helping out your grandfather. You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So to piggyback off of your point, what I say, because I am a believer of the Lord, I think I always have been, but essentially my faith journey started in the 4th grade. I hung out with a little girl named Kayla Burns, and her dad was a pastor. So hanging out with her in our small town was going to church. And all I remember is one day I was at a sermon. Next thing I know, I'm crying. Next thing I know, I'm raising my hand and inviting Jesus in, whatever that means at that time, and ever since then, I ended up getting baptized, and I grew up going to a different church, and it was the church van coming and picking me up. And then I became an adult and still went to church and tithed and served, and I did everything that I thought that I was supposed to. But sometimes I would leave church feeling worse than I did coming in. And what I learned around COVID time was that I was missing relationship. And that's ultimately what the Lord wants from us, is not the religion, not the legalism, not the check this box, this box, this box, but instead just spend that time with me, be intimate with me. And when we do that, I say that the Lord and Jesus and the Holy Spirit are like a radio station. Like when we're driving in a different area and we've got to tune our radio so that we can get the clear station. When you tune your vessel, your body, that's when you can receive. And so in 2022, my grandparents raised me. In 2022, I remember that year I was having crazy dreams about my grandma, and I would tell her, and I said, Grandma, are you and Kenneth like fighting? Are you going to leave him? Like, what's going on? And this was before I knew that my dreams were a gift from the Lord. And when I tell you, Bill, they were crazy. There was a zombie apocalypse. The KKK moved down the road from her, just like the most off the wall stuff. But what the message continued to be in those dreams is that I was always at her house and I was always trying to rescue her. And it was never my grandfather. And that's why I thought, are you guys arguing? What's going on? Well, then she passed away. Didn't think anything of it. Never had those dreams again. Never had dreams at their house again. And then last year, starting in December, the last week of November or the first week in December, I had a dream and I was back at my grandma's house and I was rescuing my grandfather. And I said, oh my gosh, those dreams were trying to let me know there was something wrong with my grandma. Now there's something wrong with my grandfather. Did a welfare check. He was fine, according to them. A week and a half later, I had another dream. Same thing. I'm rescuing him. Realized, crap, I haven't heard from him in like 2 days, which is weird. Did a welfare check. It took them hours to get to him. He had enough energy he finally heard them, had enough energy to open up a window on the second story. They climbed up, got him through there. He had passed out and collapsed on a chair. That led to him being in the ICU for 5 weeks, the nursing home for 2 weeks, and 2 more hospital stays, including having a stroke. And come to find out, we don't know how long it had been since he had last eaten or drinking because he didn't have enough energy to get anywhere. He was out of his mind because he was in renal kidney failure. So his kidneys weren't working. So he had all these toxins built up. Anytime he would just get up, his body was in the process of shutting down. And I believe that within 72 hours, he would not have been alive had somebody not found him. And in the process of getting up, because I saw it happen in the hospital, his blood pressure would, or heart rate would go over 200, just from him standing up alone. And so, yeah, I had to drop what I was doing. I quit my full-time job in ministry. We would stay around the clock at the hospital with him, and I had to advocate for him in general. Because unfortunately, when things like that happen, it shows people's true colors and family. And so we had to deal with a little bit of that and people acting like he was already 6 feet under. I had to advocate for him to get his VA care because he did not have that. And advocate for them to determine that he was still in his right state of mind to sign things and what have you, and be an active part of his treatment. Like human things that I and advocating for blew my mind and was insane, the conversations that I had to have. But and I love showing people this picture and this video of him because when he was in the nursing home, it was like he was just an empty vessel. He loves spades, and one time we were there and we were playing with him and he was putting down 3 cards and not even knowing what he was doing. He was just out of it. And it wasn't medication or anything, but it was sucking the life out of him. And then fast forward to, that was February, March, and fast forward to a couple weekends ago, and this man's at a jazz concert down the street from me, and he's just jamming and getting groovy with it. And he lives with us now. We're his caretakers, but Bill's a blessing. And by caretakers, it's just that he lives with us. We help manage his, appointments and things like that. But he drives himself. His truck is right beside me. He drives himself. He gets around. He's coherent. He doesn't need help with any of his hygiene or things like that. It is insane. But he has cancer, multiple myeloma. from Agent Orange, and then renal kidney failure. So he gets dialysis 3 times a week from Agent Orange, has some tremors and some other things, but all from his service time in Vietnam.
And then as you were getting the VA involved and advocating for him that way, which, that sometimes that, for people to do themselves, it's quite a feat. I mean, I'm grateful for a lot of, veteran service officers and stuff like that that have helped me along the way with the paperwork. But you were able to get him then connected with the VA and then service connected as well?
So we're waiting for the service connection to come through, because that is a bear. I had my own dealings that took 5 years and 2 appeals in order to get it. And I had filed for him previously and they denied him. And I thought, well, surely if he served in Vietnam and they deny him, then he just doesn't get it, I guess. Maybe I was wrong. And this was before everything happened. I think it was before the PACT Act as well, but I didn't know the game with the VA about the denials and how long and going back and all that stuff back then. So yeah, I had to start all over again, and he will be 100% because of what he has, because it is with the PACT Act. I forget the wording for it, but they automatically connect it to service. They know if it's X, Y, and Z, which is for the type of cancer that he has, and for the renal kidney failure and the tremors even are all service connected. So he'll be 100%, but he's still waiting on that part. But even for him to be able to get VA care and for the VA to be paying, I mean, his, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing this, because we still get the ledgers of what his treatments cost. And I think for every dialysis visit, it's over $8,000. His medical expenses were over almost $200,000. But luckily, because of when I was able to get VA kind of midway through that, they ended up taking care of a lot of it. But even that alone was just insane and astronomical. So
Yeah. My dad was a World War II Marine, and it's funny, the pride of the older generations as well. But I remember my dad being involved with the VFW very much, would volunteer at the VA and stuff, but never went and applied, and it wasn't until after I came home and I ran through with my VSO and started getting service connected as he got older. I mean, he lived to be 92, but as he got older, my mom is like 15 years younger, I think, than my dad. So she was like, having to be his caregiver and take care of him and stuff. And it was a lot on her. So thankfully, I finally was able to get him through and service connected and stuff. And my mom, would get there was like a daycare or in-house health aides that would come over so she could get a break, so she could go do things. And then, when he did pass, with the VSO person that I worked with, and this was all God as well, because it was like she's a believer too, so it was great having her work on it. But she says, I've never had this happen before, but she's like, let's give this a shot. And they were able to service connect his passing, so then my mom now receives his benefits. And then she was able to go join 2 golf leagues and go get active and stuff, and start living her life and pay her bills now, but it's a tough thing to work with sometimes. And especially the older ones that they feel like, oh, somebody else needs it more than me, and that's the common thing. But I learned through, my VSOs and some of the other people that every year Congress gets a budget for the VA or whatever, and it's either this much or it's whatever. And if people don't apply for it, it don't get used. Then they say, okay, well, we gave them this much last year and they still had all this left. Let's only give them less, So actually, by applying for help, you're helping other veterans, because then they, will give more. But I want to hear about how all this led to your nonprofit as well.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good thing, and there's so much. I serve on the village council. We're not big enough to get any funds for veterans. That would be our county, which is Hamilton, and I'm not attached to them. But even finding that out about how the monies that are allotted can then be saying to me, because there's not enough information out there and accessibility for these veterans to get their benefits and the funding that is allotted to them. And then I also took my grandfather. I'm sure you're aware of the honor flights, right?
Oh yeah, my dad did that.
Yes, I took my grandfather, and that was actually how I learned that when I learned that the Vietnam War vets were not welcome back. It was mind blowing. And I think because of that trauma is why there is even more pride, at least for my grandfather. And even right now, like, he will go through those moments where he's like, I'm not going to get anything. I'm not going to get any funds or whatever. And I'm like, yes, you are. But it's just that because of how they were treated, they don't feel that self-worthiness. And it's so discouraging to see. And so seeing that and having to advocate for him, and also just a lifetime of seeing soldiers get into the military not knowing resources that were available to them, and then feeling used and abused and discarded, and then getting out. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. I said, what the heck is wrong with the military that one of the MOSs is literally a career counselor, and they don't meet with, and I might be saying the wrong one, but retention NCO. The retention NCOs don't meet, at least my experience in the reserves, they don't meet with the soldiers. We don't even really know what they do until our name pops up on a list and we're getting ready to be done with our contract. And then they try and shove money in our face to get us to stay. Like, I would think that an attention NCO should be proactive versus reactive, and say, and be checking in throughout the course, throughout the duration of that contract, as far as, what are your goals? Do you know about X, Y, and Z? How can we help you? So that by
Mhm.
the time their contract comes, contract, they would stay on, and the military would have a higher retention rate just by investing in those people. So I've always been an advocate for people. I've worked as an advocate of victims of sexual assault and domestic violence. I've worked with juvenile male felony offenders, and I've been a foster parent. I've always been an advocate for the underdog, if you will. And so seeing that experience, and then seeing how my grandfather was treated, and having to advocate and tell a psychiatrist at the hospital, hold on, you're getting ready to say whether he is able-bodied and in his right mind enough to say that he wants a medical POA, and you're asking him, does he understand the severity of his diagnoses and what that prognosis is? But yet nobody has treated him like a human being and sat down and told him what his diagnoses and the prognosis is. And her eyes just were open, her jaw dropped, and she said, hold on, what? I said, yeah, people are just coming in, sticking things and whatever, and not talking to him. Not to mention, one of the questions they have to ask is, what year is it? I'm like, my grandfather is 76. He came in here New Year's Eve. We've changed over a year. You've taught me about ICU delirium and sundowners with the elderly population. And yet these are still the qualifying questions. And so just all of that stuff really upset me, and just made me wonder how many people don't have somebody to advocate for them. How many people don't have somebody to advocate that has experience with the military, or with, the hospitals and the social work side of things too, to know that if they go in a nursing home, you can have a conversation. You can order and ask for a meeting to talk about to talk to the care team and see what the treatment plan is and what's working and what's not, and get a list of all the medications, and have those check-ins and have that accountability. You can ask for there to be a camera in their room. They don't all have to abide by it, but just to know those things and have those lines of communication. And also for those businesses and establishments to know, like, you're not messing around and you're going to hold them accountable. So
Hmm.
to have that open, to know that there will be accountability and a checks and balances system, it was really fascinating to me. And so I just felt led to start a nonprofit, After Action Review Advocates. And really, our goal is simple. We just want to have the opportunity to meet with soldiers or veterans. You know, you all have stood up and taken that oath, and to see what do you think the deficits in your life are, you know, to be kind of that first line of defense of how is your day to day? What would 10% better, what would 1% better look like to you? And I don't want to recreate the wheel. I don't want to compete with anything else that's out there. But do you know about the VSO? Do you know about the VA? Do you know about, I can't think of the name of it. I have it in my email, but there's a nonprofit that helps veterans and service members to get like emotional support dogs for free, you know, things like that. Like, how can we help you? How can we advocate for you? How can we walk alongside you? There was a veteran in my village that I saw a house, because I'm a realtor. I saw a house that said foreclosure, and I looked it up, and there's a Marine flag outside of it. And I looked it up, and he just bought in 2021. I didn't see an obituary or anything. And I'm like, what is going on? Well, I see weeks later, well, I started praying, and weeks later, I see this older man, gray hair, walking down with a veteran shirt on. I'm like, is that my vet? Sure enough, he walked in the right direction. So I pulled over, asked him, and he was facing losing his house and homelessness, you know, and doesn't have any support, doesn't have any family. And so it was a matter of connecting him to some already established nonprofits and different services that he has access to here, in hopes of him being able to, you know, keep his house and get job placement and things like that, and then the opportunity to pray with them. So we just started, and I don't know fully what all it's gonna turn into, but that's just the thing, to be able to advocate and for these veterans and service members to know, like, there are more people that care, that don't want anything from you and just want to walk alongside you.
Mm. So this journey with your grandfather that started with dreams that were sent to you, you
Yeah.
know, have led to now this, and being able to work and help other veterans that aren't like we were talking about the civilians earlier. They don't know what they don't know. Well, like veterans too, they don't know what's available unless they ask.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, in VA, you know, only is so much, you know, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that I've done in my own personal journey and recovery outside the VA that have helped me more than, you know, some of the things I was getting inside the VA. But we don't know unless, you know, we find out about them. And that's another reason why I like to do this podcast, because I've had people from, you know, all kinds of different veteran organizations out there talk about their organization, and hopefully you know, veterans or active duty people hear it and they're like, wow, that's cool. I'll have to remember that when I get out, or, you know, or I'll have to look into that. That would be very beneficial. Like you mentioned, the service animal, there is an organization, it's not around anymore up here, but it was Wags for Warriors. And I
Okay.
was able to get my dog, who's upstairs right now, you know, was originally a service dog. Now
There you
he's more
go.
a family dog, but
Yeah.
he at the time helped me tremendously, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, we don't know what we don't know about, and it's you know, and I'd be happy to share some of the other organizations that I've worked with and send them to you, so
Oh, please.
uh,
Yeah.
your organization can you know, pass it along, you know.
Definitely.
So you said you guys are fairly new then. It's
Yes. Yes. Newly established. And the fascinating thing was, as I was reaching out to my circle and deciding, because with a nonprofit, you have to have a board and everything. Come to find out, some of my friends, I didn't even realize that they have a connection to the military. I knew one of my friends who serves as the VP, Kaylee Frazier. She is an Army veteran, as is her husband. So I knew with her that was a no-brainer. And she also has a social work background as well. Another girlfriend, I did know that her dad was active duty. He's since passed, but she was connected in that regard. And but another girlfriend that serves on the board with us, Devin, I did not realize that her dad was active duty, and I've been friends with her for years. I didn't realize that another girlfriend, Laura, that serves on the board, that her grandfather was a Marine, I do believe. And so it was just neat that, they have that connection and that just respect and admiration and knowledge of the military and service members, and just that heart to give back too. So it's so cool. But yeah, so we're new, and I don't know what it's going to turn into, because another thing, like I said, about being able to, as a single mom, drop what I was doing and leave my job and ministry full time to literally go and stay with my grandfather around the clock at the hospital to advocate for him. They were strapping him up to the bed, giving him sedatives that he did not need, things like that. And then when they're coming in to see if he's in his right mind and what's going on, he's not, because he's been knocked out all day.
Yeah.
So things like that, I can see us, maybe one time getting a call and saying, hey, Rachel, I have a relative or best friend that's going into the hospital, can you just sit with them until we get there? And I would love to be able to say, yes, we got you covered. Or, hey, I want to get my, get my end of life plans together and start thinking about that. Because that's another important thing too, is being able to have those conversations and to be able to point them in the right direction, give them a couple of things to take into consideration, and saying, hey, did you know that there's a legal shield and you can pay, I think it's $30 or $40 a month, and they will help you get all of that together. And I know that there's no minimum commitment for you have to be with them for X amount of months, but just being able to help people plug into things that they either don't know are available, or they know that they need but don't know where to start. So, and just being there with them, praying with them, or supporting them in their time of need. Or if they have a financial struggle, I pray that we'll get to the point to where if a bill's getting ready to cut off, or just like that veteran, I wish we'd been around longer so we would have a car that we could give him or go buy him one, So whatever it looks like, I'm open, but I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to be able to walk that out with my grandfather and get him to good health. And I just want to be able to be an advocate and be a support person for an organization for other veterans and service members and their family and loved ones.
That's amazing. So, like you were saying, you were a single mom in ministry, left that to care for your grandfather, but now you do, I know real estate. You've been talking about real estate as well. And then I think you mentioned city council, right? How did the city council thing come together for you?
The Lord, literally a neighbor that I had met on social media, maybe had a handful of conversations with me, but she would see the things that I post, and I'm pretty transparent. And she said, hey, have you ever thought about politics? We're getting ready to move outside of the village, and I wanted to throw your name as my replacement, because it was outside of an election year. And so she did that. I interviewed with them and was appointed, and then I had to run, and I ran unopposed. We're just a small little village, and then was elected. And I love serving. It's great. It's a great opportunity, and it's perfect because it's so small. Like I said, we really don't have a lot of issues. So a levy here or there and things like that. But we have a great relationship with our fire department, our police department. Like, I love living here, and it's been wonderful. So, and moving here was after my best friend committed suicide, and I decided that I wanted to have more opportunities for me and my boys. We relocated to the big city. And so it was one of those things about just what happens in a snowball effect, and how God just works all things out for our good. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Rachel, this has definitely been an amazing conversation, definitely spirit-led. I appreciate hearing about your journey. If if there's any people out there listening that kind of want to follow where the after action review advocates, where that ends up or what that entails, is there anywhere to send them?
Yeah, I would say for right now, if anybody wants to follow up, they can shoot a text to 937-509-6246 or an email to rachel@olrpro.com. We have the website and everything in the work. So it's not up just yet, not finalized, but we'll have it soon.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Rachel, I really appreciate your time. Now, before we get ready to wrap up, I want to ask you a couple quick questions that I normally ask my guests that I have on. What class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today?
Financial management.
That's the number one answer I get all the time, and I've interviewed, you touring musicians and people all walks of life, and they're just like, man, I wish they taught me. They teach you how. I mean, they kind of encourage you to spend it, but they don't teach you how to like budget it and save it and have it grow wealth and stuff. So,
I learned how to
or taxes.
I learned all of my stuff working in banking, and it was insane to be learning how to manage a checkbook by balancing somebody else's checkbook. There was one story that one time a lady was a penny off, and I had to go through months of her records to find where that penny came from. And it was the U.S. Department of the Treasurer's Office that forged her check and changed it by a penny so their records would be right. So that's a crazy story. But yeah, I learned if it wasn't for banking and working as a mortgage lender previously, I wouldn't have learned what I learned now. And it's something that I'm definitely an advocate of for adults, for seniors, for kids, for teenagers, especially as we go through stages in life and our finances change. It's something we should constantly be learning and getting continued education on.
Yeah, definitely. And that one penny that the federal government, of course, was behind could have been like a overdraft fee or something being added on, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could have if you get with some sticklers of banks. She had more than enough money there. She was just so meticulous. I think she was a teacher, and she was so meticulous about her checkbook that she could not, for the life of her, she could not take being off a penny. So I had that lucky job of finding it. Yeah.
And then who are three people who have inspired you and you can credit for making you the person you are today?
Oh gosh. I definitely don't want to sound cliche, but the Lord for sure. He's such a good father. He's so patient and tender and just full of grace and kindly shows me things that I've gotten wrong or what his way is, and I love it. And my grandmother, she had such a big heart, but also was a firecracker. And then I would have to say my best friend that passed away from suicide, Jess Holland, he still to this day is the best man that I've ever met. I mean, just the way that he ran his household, the soldier and sergeant that he was, the way that he worked in business, just the son and brother and friend. He was just amazing without expecting anything in return.
And then what was your favorite toy as a child?
That's a good one. Favorite toy as a child? Oh, I guess the one that comes up, I was outdoors, so I loved my roller skates. I liked riding my bicycle, but the first thing that came to mind when you said that was the 1 year that I got a pogo stick. I thought that was fascinating. So yeah.
Nice. And then any message you have for our military brothers and sisters currently serving overseas?
Yeah, just stay encouraged. Just stay encouraged. Be safe. Make it home safe. And we thank you for what you do. And it's still, even being out and even having served, I still just have my hats off to those that see wartime. And I'm so grateful, especially with technology and all the advances, the things that we see that go on in other countries that we're not exposed to, and the rights that people take for granted that we have because of our military and armed forces. You're doing a thankless job, and our government could not pay you what you're worth. So just know that it doesn't fall on deaf ears, and we're not blinded to that fact. And we just love and appreciate you.
Awesome. Rachel, thanks again so much. This has been an amazing conversation. I have one last favor to ask of you.
Yeah.
When I have my veterans on here, I always ask them to give me a promo ID just introduce yourself at the last rank you held, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Listening to today's Boondoggle. Okay. All right. My name is Rachel Jouett. The last rank that I held was corporal in the United States Army Reserve, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle with Bill.
Awesome. Rachel, thanks again so much. It was awesome talking to you. I'm very grateful for Eric connecting us.
Yes, that man is an angel. So thank you so much. And thanks for having me and the great communication with everything that I've had going on. And this has been awesome. So I commend you on everything you've got going on, and hope that you have many other fascinating people to interview, which I actually have one that I'll have to send you offline. So yeah.
Yes, please do. Thank you very much. Appreciate
You're welcome. All right. Have a good one.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Listen up! Hold on to your seats! Grab your girls, grab your beers!
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Advocacy, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.